Warning: the following video contains information that are not suitable for people under 18, people who control others using money, and people who are on the verge of quitting their jobs. Viewer discretion is advised. I retired early at 25 years old, and even though that sounds impressive, I made plenty of mistakes along the way that cost me a ton of money and caused many mental breakdowns. Here's what I'd do if I were to start from scratch and retire early all over again. To give you some context, this is my journey towards early retirement. I started my first business when I was 13, when I was eager to be free from my mom's control. Yeah, she would constantly remind me that I have to obey everything she says because she pays for everything in my life. As a rebel I didn't like to obey, so I saw making money as my out, my golden ticket towards independence and freedom. At 21, I was severely burnt out in Big Four. To be honest, I didn't really have a clear goal of early retirement at the time. I just wanted to rely less on my stressful job. It just didn't feel sustainable to work 80-hour work weeks, endless busy seasons, and in windowless audit rooms. That's when I intentionally and strategically created income streams outside of my job, which is now the passive income ecosystem. At 25, to my surprise, I retired early. Specifically, I broke up with corporate. I tell you my story because I want you to know that what you desire is definitely possible. Don't let pessimistic cynics tell you otherwise. In fact, the money part of early retirement is a simple and straightforward part. As long as you listen carefully to what I'm about to share, retiring early than before is just inevitable. I have condensed what I learned in the past 13 years into the next 30 minutes. Let's get straight to it. What you need is 3 words: passive income ecosystem. There are 4 main parts to the pie, but to really get it working properly, you'll need a 5th part that I'll mention in the end of this video. This was the missing puzzle piece for me, the very reason why I fell into the deepest depression after I retired early. The first part of the pie is LR, lifestyle realignment. The reason why we want to work on lifestyle realignment first is because if we want to fill up our bucket, we have to first fix the leaking hose before we pump more water through. I don't want to work extra hard just for my hard-earned money to slip right through my fingers before I even get to enjoy them. The first thing you want to do is do an audit of all your finances. What are your money drainers? Where are you not getting an ROI? And ROI is not just about money, it also includes your personal satisfaction. So if you're paying for something but you're not getting more satisfaction from it, or at least enough satisfaction from it, then that is something that you want to perhaps get rid of. Number 2, you want to start negotiating for any of your monthly recurring expenses or annual expenses. And this includes things like Wi-Fi, your phone bill, your car insurance, your home insurance. And here's a pro tip. When you negotiate, you can always pretend that you've been speaking to their competitor and their competitors offer a better rate. So for example, if let's say you're calling Spectrum for your Wi-Fi and you're like, hey, I know T-Mobile offers a better rate, even though you haven't spoken to T-Mobile, but you can just tell them and then they might want to give you a better rate so you don't leave them. Another thing that you can do is to ask for their retention department. So the retention department is basically there to make you stay as a customer. They want to retain you as a customer. So usually the people at the retention center have the best deals because they're kind of a last resort. And obviously companies, they want to keep making money. They want to keep their customers. So they'll try their best to give you the best possible deal. And of course, every single person's different. So let's say the person you talk to does not give you the good deal that you're looking for. You can always call again later because a lot of times I see that there is a huge difference between one operator and another operator. One thing I want to emphasize is don't underestimate the power of saving small amounts of recurring expense over time. Oh, I don't want to waste my time saving $30 a month, says the financially struggling people. Oh, do you think you're too good to negotiate for $30 a month, which is $360 a year and $3,600 in 10 years? And don't forget the power of compounding. If you were to invest $30 a month at a 10% annual return, you'll end up with $6,074. And that's just $30 a month from one bill. What if you're able to save $30 on your phone bill, $150 on your car insurance, and $70 on your home insurance? That is $200 a month. And that compounded in 10 years will give you over 40K. And obviously we don't want to be extreme and go dumpster diving instead of buying actual food, so we can invest every single penny into the stock market. But if you're able to make a quick 15-minute phone call and save yourself $200 a month of recurring expense without downgrading your quality of life, why not? Remember, if you want more money, you have to respect money. It's always the financially struggling people who act like they're too good to save petty cash. I'm a millionaire today and I still negotiate whenever I can. Today at CVS, I successfully got my nasal spray from $250 to $60, all because I believe every dollar deserves respect, and I am willing to do the work to save money, big or small. And the third thing you want to consider is move to a cheaper place. And I'm someone who have lived in a garage and lived in my car. I'm not saying that you have to do this yourself, but here are the facts. Most Americans spend at least a third of their paycheck in housing. And if you live in a high cost of living place like LA, then that could be even half of your paycheck. That is a lot of money in the long run. I also have a friend from college who actually lived with his parents throughout his 20s, and now he is much more financially well off than his peers. So definitely consider that there is no shame in living with your family. If you have that as an option, please use it because you can save a ton of money. And I'm also super jealous of you because I moved to this country all alone at 18 years old, so living with my family was never an option for me. And the fourth thing you can do is house hack or rent hack. So what this means, house hacking, is you rent out a part of your home. This can be an ADU, or this can be a spare bedroom that you have. So this way you get to pocket some rent money and also write off some home related expenses, such as repair costs for your home. Multimillionaires like Graham Stephan do this too. He bought a duplex and rented out half of it to a tenant to offset his own housing costs. And rent hack is a similar idea. You rent out a place and you sublet it to someone else. So you sublet part of the space, let's say the living room or a spare bedroom, to someone else. This is not necessarily allowed in every single rental agreement, so you definitely want to check and read the fine prints to make sure you're not breaking your agreement. The fifth thing you can do is find money. Like, okay, just close your eyes and visualize this. There are literally dollar signs everywhere. There's money everywhere, and you just have to find it. I think a trap that most people fall into is they feel like they can only earn money in one way, which is so not true. Like, sure, you can make money from your job, but you can also make money in many different ways. For example, can you sell anything? For me, because I have an obsession with designer handbags, just look behind me, I can sell my designer handbags, and I actually made a profit in a lot of my sales. And that's also because I was very intentional with my purchases, as you can see in this video. And I only purchase things that I know have a good resale value and they retain their value really well. And of course, I also keep my handbags in really good shape. And the second thing you can do is ask yourself, can you monetize anything? For example, you can rent out your car via Turo if you're not using it. And if you have a pole, then you can also rent out your pole for open pole sessions. Speaking of finding money, you can also do this quite literally. Keep an eye out for money on the sidewalk. Half of the time, I end up finding money on the ground, literally during my hot girl walks. You can also keep an eye out for discounts and coupon codes. Want to join a new dance studio? Search on Groupon and see if they offer specials. Want to buy a new dress? Google discount codes for that and turn on Rakuten. And the sixth thing you want to do is relationships. And specifically, I mean romantic relationships, because honestly, this is a person that you probably spend a lot of time with, a lot of money on, and a lot of money with. So here's a confession. I used to exclusively date broke guys. And I did this because I was insecure and I wanted to be liked. And I didn't want to be seen as materialistic. So I thought if I exclusively date broke guys, then nobody can say that I'm materialistic and people will like me more. But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. Here's my experience, very anecdotal, but here's my experience. I find that most broke guys are very insecure, especially if they're like older and broke. I'm not talking about like, the fresh out of college broke. I'm talking about like, mid 30s or like early 30s and very broke. Like if you already have 10 years in your career and you're still like even more broke than a college student, then something's up, I believe. And because they're so insecure, they tend to project their insecurities onto me. One of my exes literally started spreading rumors about how I bought my USC degree. And it was just like crazy. Like they just want to make up lies because they feel so threatened by anything you have done, anything you are. Like they're just threatened by everything. And it's so draining to be in a relationship with someone like that. Not just draining. I also developed poor money mindset from those relationships. At one point, I literally felt guilty that I was working so hard and I was ashamed of making more money than them because I was constantly criticized, belittled, and gaslit by them. They would say things like, "There's no way your company makes you work so late into the night. You must be cheating on me." Mind you, I was working in Big Four. It is normal to work long hours during busy season. But of course, because we were not financially compatible, he probably had not even met anyone from Big Four, so he accused me of cheating when I was just working. It took me a long time to heal from those trauma. Oh yeah, and because they were broke, they would also make me feel bad whenever they pay for our dates. Oh yeah, I didn't even want to mention this, but one of them had the audacity to ask me to pay him back for all the dates we went on and all the so-called gifts he got me. Being the good woman I thought I had to be, I paid him back. Yes, I paid him all back. Ugh, disgusting. I'm getting the ick as I'm thinking back to it. And I'm not even talking like Michelin star fancy restaurants. I'm talking 70 bucks for two. Normal dining out costs. Like, dude, if you can't afford to go on a date, just don't go on one. Don't decide to pay for it and then get mad at me for it. Looking back, I now realize how draining it was for my mental health, wallet, energy, just overall not worth it. I'd rather be single than be with someone who is not financially compatible with me. So definitely consider who you're with. You want to be with someone who is financially compatible. And I'm not telling you that you only date rich guys. Of course, you can go date a millionaire. That is totally fine, but you're not limited to only dating rich people or millionaires. You just want to find someone who is financially compatible with you, someone who does not degrade you or make you feel bad because they are threatened by your success. For example, my current partner, he actually fell in love with me. He started having a crush on me after watching my YouTube videos back when I was making exclusively personal finance videos. So he knows about my values. He knows about how I manage my money, how I spend my money, how I invest. And that's kind of how our relationship started. And I think that way you can really like guarantee that you guys are financially compatible. Not to say that you have to start making personal finance videos in order to attract a financially compatible partner, but it's definitely helpful to have those money conversations early on in the relationship. Maybe not first date, but if you're thinking about going exclusive with your partner, start talking about money. Money values, money in the bank, income situation, career trajectory, investments, financial goals, how you like to manage your money in a marriage or a long-term relationship. Do you like to combine your finances or have separate accounts? Do you want to contribute a fixed amount of money into the joint account? Do you expect your partner to be the breadwinner? Does your love language involve gifts? And the next part of the pie is IP, which stands for investor personality. From watching countless videos on how to be financially free, we all know the secret weapon is passive income from investing. But all I did was lose a bunch of money in the stock market. What's the missing link? Oh yeah, it's me. I was just blindly following other people's stock picks without taking into consideration who I am, what I want, and what I know. In short, my investor personality. And there are a couple components to this. There is your personality, there is your knowledge, there is your age, there's your risk tolerance, and there is your future plans, which includes when you want to retire or when you want to have kids, just like what are some major money stuff that you plan to do in the future. So for example, if you consider yourself as someone who has a lazy personality like me, then you can consider passive investing in low-cost index funds. Because I use Fidelity as my main brokerage, I like to invest in FZROX, which is Fidelity's Zero Total Market Index Fund. I talk more about how to invest in this video. And for example, your knowledge. For me, I worked in tech and I'm very familiar with tech companies, so I invest heavily within tech. This is also the concept of your circle of competence, how you want to invest according to what you know, so you don't get burned, basically. And there's also your age. For example, if you're in your 20s, then you should aim to invest in 5 to 7 stocks. And the older you get, the more stocks you should buy, because the more stocks you have, the more diversified your portfolio is. And in terms of future plans, the closer you are to your planned retirement, the more diversified your portfolio should be. In terms of risk tolerance, the higher your risk tolerance, the less diversified your portfolio can be. And for me, I'm lazy. I worked in tech and finance. I'm in my 20s and I retired at 25 years old with a relatively low risk tolerance. And this is my investment strategy. Around 70% in low cost index funds and 30% in individual stocks. And in terms of the individual stocks, I invest pretty heavily in tech, finance, and real estate. And because I have a relatively lower risk tolerance, I also like to invest pretty heavily in mega cap and large cap companies. And I do a combination of dividend investing, growth investing, and value investing. And because of my risk tolerance, I like to focus more on dividend investing and value investing because growth investing, in my opinion, is more risky than the other two. And now is the third part of the pie, which is monetizable identity, which means you want to know yourself, you want to understand how you operate, and don't get distracted by whatever other people try to sell you. And yes, here I am talking about all the online courses and MLMs you see all over social media. Everyone claims what they're doing is the most profitable because that's how they become profitable. Before you buy yet another online course or join another MLM, Learn your monetizable identity first. At 21, I was making 59K as a Big Four auditor. The salaries are pretty transparent in Big Four, so I know I wouldn't be able to hit six figures for at least another 3 years. I've already invested all the money I could, over 30% of my paycheck, and I had nothing left to invest with. How do I invest more? Oh, create more income streams. Since I'm the one making money, I thought, why don't I start with who I am, what I'm good at, and what I enjoy doing? This is the birth of the monetizable identity. The first thing you can do is journal about all your accomplishments as a kid. And this can be big or small. This can be, competitions you've won or stuff that your teacher has complimented you about. For example, for me, stage fright is not a thing for me. Somehow I always perform better in front of the public eye compared to in private when I'm practicing. So, for example, one time it was like a piano recital, and I was like so sick that day, but my mom, of course, dragged me to the recital because she still wants me to perform. Which I did, and I am not best at playing piano because I don't like to practice, but I remember clearly during the recital, I did not make a single mistake, and that was literally the most perfect performance I have done in my life. I was shook, and my mom was shook. And I think I'm just someone who really likes being under the spotlight, and that is probably why I'm making videos right now and being in the public eye. Second thing you want to do is to journal about all the things you've enjoyed as a child. And for me, it is making videos. I remember in my English class and in AP Psych, we were assigned a project of making videos, and I always volunteer that I want to make videos, I want to plan the whole thing, I want to edit the whole thing. And yes, it was like hella time consuming because like I remember back then it was like Windows Movie Maker. It was just like really confusing. I didn't really know the shortcuts and I spent like hours on it, but I really enjoyed it. So I think that is also why I'm creating videos today, because this was something that I enjoyed as a kid. And a third thing that you want to do is interview people you're close with, and this can be your friends and family. You want to ask them if they could describe you in 3 words, what would they be? What are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? And what do they think you're a natural at? And number 4, you want to try. You want to dabble, and you don't want to shoot anything down before you try it unless that is against your moral compass. And here's why. If you're in your 20s, you might feel like you know yourself very well, but because of your limited life experience, you don't really know what you haven't tried. And I don't care if you start working since you're 16, if you have a lot of work experience, because I started when I was 13, and there were still a ton of things that I didn't understand about myself. So I did try a lot of things. I tried different forms of investing, I tried trading, I tried even MLMs, I tried working in cafes, I tried working in maid cafes specifically. So definitely try different things before you shoot anything down. But also, number 5 is don't be afraid to say no. After you really give it your best shot at something, like you really try your best and you have struggled for months or even years and it still doesn't work, or it just doesn't sit well with you, if it doesn't feel ethical to you, if it doesn't feel like you're doing the right thing, then it is time to let it go and stop trying the same thing over and over again. And for me, that is outsourcing the content part of my social media presence. And I was actually offered an opportunity to work with this really big agency. They worked with some really big names. I don't want to name drop here to protect their privacy, but these are people that we all know, we all watch. And it was very enticing because these people made a ton of money, they're super famous, they're super popular, but I just couldn't do it. My content started from being a way for me to authentically express myself, to tell my story, to tell my truth. And I just don't want anyone to take creative control of my content. And so that's something that, I decided it does not sit well with me. And I decided that, hey, I am not going to do this, no matter how enticing it is, no matter how hard people try to sell me their services. There's a saying that I really like. They say you sometimes have to say no to $10,000 opportunities to say yes to $1 million opportunities. And I'm not saying that every single time you say no, you'll just end up with more and more money. That's not the point. But sometimes you do have to say no to things that are out of alignment in order to make room for things that are actually in alignment, that are actually lined up with who you are, that fit with your moral compass. Like how I decided to intentionally not make any money last year to find my balance again. I was saying no to money because I know it's beneficial to me and my business in the long run. For every dollar I made, I donated even more to various charities and causes. I literally kept zero money and even lost a ton of money in my business from paying my team, paying for software, and trainings. It was really hard on my nervous system because I was so used to finding a sense of security from the act of making more and more money. But I knew that was what I needed. I didn't want to continue the rat race outside of corporate. I want to see if I'd be happy running this business even if it's not making me money, even if I'm losing money. Well, it turns out I am. Now that we've talked about lifestyle realignment, monetizable identity, and investor personality, let's talk about how they make you more money. For lifestyle realignment, you can make money from house hacking, selling your belongings, and renting your unused vehicle or pull. For monetizable identity, if we share a similar monetizable identity, you can make money with YouTube ad revenue, coaching, and affiliate marketing, just to name a few. For investor personality, you can make money via investing in low-cost index funds, dividend stocks, value stocks, and growth stocks in various industries and sectors. Remember to invest according to who you are, what you know about, and how you want to live your life. I also want to add that these income streams are part of an ecosystem for a reason. A lot of people make the mistake of only relying on one income stream. For example, a software engineer relies on her salary and focuses solely on getting a raise or promotion, or hopping to a different company to get a pay bump. While doing this can improve your finances if you're successful at it, it also puts you in a lot of risk. No matter which job you work or how much you make, always create passive income at the same time, and vice versa. Because if you only focus on making active income from working, when can you stop working? And if you only focus on making passive income from investing, where do you get the money to fund your portfolio? Your active income and passive income should work together to form a passive income ecosystem. You see, your active income streams from your monetizable identity go straight into your investor personality, and the funds from your investor personality can also fund your monetizable identity if necessary to create a snowball effect. And now let's talk about Freedom Blueprint, which is the fourth part of the passive income ecosystem. And this is, what kind of early retirement are you looking for? You can't really reach your goals if you're not specific about what you want. It's like dating. If you don't have strong boundaries and a list of qualities you're looking for, you'll end up dating anyone and everyone, putting up with BS left and right, like dating someone who asks you to pay him back for all the money he spent on your dates. In terms of early retirement, we need a clear goal of what retiring early really means to us. What type of retiring early do we really benefit from the most? There are many different types of fire, like fat fire, chubby fire, lean fire, coast fire, and I actually made a video all about the different types of fire that people know. And there's also non-traditional fire, such as retiring from corporate, retiring from a career. The third way is my favorite, which is retiring from fire. This means you're getting rid of all the labels, restrictions, and boxes. You're not trying to be any specific way or match anyone's expectations. You're just staying true to yourself and choosing to do the things that align with your mission, vision, and values. I arrived here because I realized how depressed I got after I retired early, the traditional way. I couldn't do anything because that would just lead to endless criticisms, accusations, and doubt. People were saying I didn't really retire because I still create content, or that I didn't retire from anything, I just went into wealth management. Like, what? Or that I just became an influencer after quitting corporate. And I also couldn't not do anything because that is just not me. I hate being stagnant. I hate staying the same way. I hate not growing, learning, evolving, improving, and creating. The days that I was not working, I fell into the absolute deepest depression. I talk more about retiring from fire in this video. Now, let's talk about the fifth ingredient, which I honestly feel like is the most important one. Your why. You see, most people use the why as a motivator to keep them going, chasing after their goal. But I believe the why is more important in terms of keeping you sane after you hit the goal. Have you ever reached a goal in the past and you just feel nothing? Like it's all very anticlimactic? That is because you didn't have your why in mind. When I retired early, it was quite accidental. I just wanted to make more and more money. I wanted to create more and more income streams. And at one point, I created 17 income streams and I felt like such a badass. But I didn't really have a vision. I didn't have a mission and I did not have core values. So after I created 17 income streams and became a millionaire and then earned the privilege to retire early, I was lost. I didn't know what to do with my newfound freedom, and that level of emptiness triggered my deepest depressive episodes. I talk more about that experience and how I overcame it in this video. So as you're working on the tangible things, your monetizable identity, your lifestyle realignment, your investor personality, and your freedom blueprint, also keep figuring out your why. This can change over time. For example, my why in the beginning was just to keep myself safe. It's because I put myself in really dangerous situations throughout my teens and 20s for the sake of making money. And I wanted to prevent that from happening again. So that became my biggest motivator. Now, my why is having the ability to stay true to myself and share my story and speak my truth. This is something I wasn't able to do in the past. From my experience, when you're working in corporate, you have to hide parts of yourself to seem more professional, to fit into the cookie cutter. And specifically, from my upbringing as a Chinese daughter who grew up in China, the expectation was for me to be obedient, to do what I was told without asking questions, to fit in, to keep quiet. So I never really had the chance to stay true to myself, share my story, or speak my truth. That's why this is my new why. It is so important to me, and it is the reason why I've decided to make these videos that do not have a clear return on investment or call to action. As I'm making these videos, I am healing parts of my inner child, and I hope it is helpful for you too. Speaking of inner child, I want to share something that has been a secret of mine for the longest time: my insecurities, specifically about failure. Growing up, my strict parents did not allow me to fail. If I got a 99 on my math exam, my mom would always yell at me for the one missing point.
Why can't you get 100? Why are you so careless? When can you stop making stupid mistakes?
I brought home my test results thinking I'd get some praise and acknowledgement because the teacher said it's excellent. But instead, all I got myself were tears and trouble. My mom would also relentlessly compare me to others.
Look at Sally next door. She gets straight A's. How come she can do it and you can't? Did you hear about Kevin? Yeah, my friend's 18-year-old son. He just got into Stanford. Must be nice to be his parent. You, all you do is give me a headache.
And it's not just people I know, it was my friends too. She would pit me against my friends. If my friends get better grades, she'd be like, if they can do it, why can't you? If my friends got worse grades, she'd be like, stop hanging out with them. They're a bad influence. So I became friendless. I started treating everything as a competition. No matter what I do, I must be the best at it. I have to get the best grades, work for the best companies, make the best money, look the best, and live the best life. On paper, I did it. I got good grades that got me into USC, and then I got into Big Four accounting, and then I started making six figures in my early 20s, and then I became a millionaire, and then I retired early. But only I knew I wasn't living my best life. I still felt like a big fat failure, regardless of what's on paper. For the longest time, I thought I was just ungrateful or depressed. While those definitely contributed to my sense of failure, the biggest contributor was actually this: I was pushing myself to compete in things I wasn't made for. So that's what we will discuss next week: the ick measuring contests in our society, how it impacted my life, and how I plan to unenroll myself from these pointless competitions. If that sounds interesting to you, be sure to click the subscribe and bell so you can see next week's video.